Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is day 4 of the National Arts in Health Week Nigeria. My name is Busayo. I'm a doctor. You can call me Busayo, really. But yes, you're welcome to today's program. It promises to be a very interesting one. We have lots of very interesting speakers today that I'll be introducing. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're joining. I'm very happy that we have you here today. Okay, I'm going to go ahead to introduce the speakers for today. We have Mr. Abdul-Wajuud Afolabi, who is a cross-disciplinary artist and art publicist. We have Fab Uche Valerie. Valerie is an artist and art curator. She's also the founder of the Garage Collective. We have Mr. Bolu Onasanya, is a mental wellness expert and popularly known as the Apostle of Joy. We would have had, unfortunately, we couldn't get Nana Asumah here, but we have a pre-recorded session of her, which we'll be playing at the end. So we'll just be asking a few questions, and then at the end, we will take, questions from, I'm sure that we will have a number of questions from from the participants on the call. So yes, we'll take these questions. We'll get right to it. I'm going to, ask for the speakers to please unmute themselves, and one after the other, we'll start from Mr. Abdul-Wajuud. Tell us briefly what you do and what your work is about before, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you. We cannot hear you, Abdul-Wajuud. Would you like to maybe unmute yourself?
I just unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, great. Thank you.
Right behind me, and on days that I'm not in the studio painting, I spend my days visiting art galleries and talking about other artists in my community.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Abdul-Wajuud. We can we hear from Valerie now? Hi, Valerie. Valerie is my old friend, by the way.
Hello, Busayo. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Valerie-Fab Uche. I'm an artist, an arts curator. I'm an art educator as well, and I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you. Mr. Bolu Onasanya, Apostle of Joy.
Yes. Hi, Busayo. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Such a delight to be able to spread the gospel of joy to the world. Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you. It's very nice to have everyone here. So yes, we will go straight to it because we don't have a lot of time. We're hoping that this can be a 1-hour conversation. And basically on this call, we're just trying to explore the relationship or the interaction of arts with mental health, particularly. That's what we'll be focusing on. And we have wonderful people who are very well skilled. Oh, I think I missed someone. I'm so sorry. I've missed Victoria Ashadu. Oh my gosh. Please forgive me. Hi, Victoria. Please introduce yourself.
That's okay. It's easily done. Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Ashadu, and I'm an art psychotherapist. So, yeah, that's my day job. I work as an art psychotherapist, and I'm also an artist. I paint and I make little things as well.
That's great. Apologies again. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
I think we will start from Victoria then.
Okay.
So yes, tell us a little about your, day-to-day activities, what the center's about, how the arts help.
How art helps artists or people in general, or?
You can speak a little general, what's your perception, how people actually take arts, how it affects our day-to-day lives, and then we can get into the more technical questions that we have for today.
Okay. I find that art is a lot of people say things like, oh, I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do anything like that. But I think we're all artists in our own right. If you can put your clothes on, coordinate your colors, that in itself is art. And I think we all respond to art in different ways. But it's such the work that I do, I work as an art therapist, and I find that using art as a tool of expression really helps people to sort of break down barriers and and communicate even difficult things that they would find difficult to articulate. But with art, it's quite easy to sort of have those conversations. So it's a wonderful tool, and it's a beautiful gift that we've all been given, either to use as artists or to receive and to enjoy as spectators and observers. So
absolutely, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yes, we'll go to Mr. Abdul-Wajuud now. We had we've just seen that you've completed an exhibition recently, and I can see a beautiful artwork behind you. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your recent exhibition, how it relates to mental health?
All right, so the concluded exhibition that I had, which is my first solo exhibition, was titled The Military Zone People. And it literally started as a way of addressing these all unaddressed issues, like the topics they say we should not talk about, the places they say we should not go, the passion they say we should not explore. And for me, it was important for me to strike with something we were very familiar with on our road, in our neighborhoods. There was always the tagline on our fences that would say military zone people. And for me, yeah, that was the it for me to get people going and get people curious about the exhibition.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So tell us a little, more about maybe yourself, your background. What has, inspired this? What has inspired you to create art, especially ones relating to mental health?
All right. So sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. For a bit of context, about 2018 to 2019, I actually ran a mental health organization right here in Nigeria, just privately organized and just within my circle. I started growing my following as a poet, and I found that some of the conversations I was having with my community was growing into people longing for the next conversation. Then I figured that, you know what, let's bring this thing to a sit-down session. Let's have people come and discuss these issues that everybody's affected by. And then I invite people like our J4 and some crucial mental health advocates to be able to speak to us. So that was 2018, 2019. And for me, I thought that bringing that together, what I didn't anticipate was the amount of people that would think that the professional and started submitting their problems to my DMs. And I got overwhelmed. So I had to shut it down and redirect that energy in infusing the conversations into my heart. And I used my artwork to now talk about it versus bringing people together. Because it was very crucial for me for people to be able to separate that I'm not a professional trained to be able to handle your mental illness. I'm just creating spaces for you to be able to address it. So from 2018, 19 into 2022, I'm having my first exhibition. 2023, I'm having a follow-up exhibition. I realized that more and more often, I want to have more conversations around the joyful influence of art in mental health. Because for me, I grew up in an industry that often depicted mental illness versus mental health, and they target mental health. I grew up in an industry that consciously or unconsciously paints more depressing visuals that are supposed they're supposed to be intended and for the people who are affected by these mental health issues. But you find out that it's just going to end up depressing people when you paint like this. Who will buy this to put in their house? It's just and so your call is calling me in. I'm very sorry about that. I'm in Nigeria, so I cannot split my screen in the moment. So it started like that, and to my exhibition, which closed last month, I have a room. It was divided into 4 rooms, and I had a room in there that was tagged Invitation to Self. It's a continuation of a series of work that I'm currently exhibiting that touch on the joyful influence of art in mental health, and basically just addressing how you don't necessarily have to paint a depressing picture to address a mental health issue.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that, very detailed explanation about your recent exhibition. We are still going to talk a little about that because you have some things to explain to us. Anyway, thank you so much. Let's go to Valerie now. Valerie is an art curator, and as an art curator yourself, what is your perspective on the works that artists do? I'm sure that you do some art of your own. What do you personally think of this work and its relationship to mental health? I'd like for you to maybe tell us your own experience, or if you've been in spaces where this has actually impacted people. Yes, I'd like to hear from you as well.
Okay, thank you, Busayo, for that question. Whenever I think about art and I think about mental health, from a personal point of view, there are two things that come to my mind. First of all, I will talk about the Global Arts in Medicine Fellowship because it came at a time where personally, maybe I didn't know that I needed it, but it came at a time when it was something that needed to be done. So I had participated in this fellowship, and most of the time, whenever we all came together, we were talking, we were interacting, and then we were also painting. And the paintings that we created them within, would I say, a medical space. So it wasn't being created like, oh, you go to your house, you come back with the piece. We're all creating together, and we're all creating within the medical space, and seeing the way that, and we also had sessions where we interacted with patients in the hospital. So we did some paintings at Luce, and I was privileged to be among the people that were there I sometimes witness and then sometimes even interact with the people that were in the hospital. And when we talk about art, I wouldn't want to limit it to just fine art. There was also music as well, and music is a branch of art. And just seeing the way that people were able to react, to the art that we were bringing to them it changed my perspective, first of all, on the healing abilities of art. I mean, we talk about how art is healing all the time, but not until you actually experience it for yourself before you know the real capability or the real potency of art as a healing tool. Another instance was when I had this residency in South Africa, and I got to meet this artist whose name is Nastio Mosquito. So Nastio had put together an installation piece that was talking about how one should be self-sufficient, saying you are enough for yourself and you shouldn't think anything too much about it. And it came to me at a time where it felt like I was not enough. So now this was the second time of me experiencing art as a tool of therapy, and also a healing tool as well. So just seeing the way that people engage with art in terms of mental health, addressing mental health, and in the different ways in which they do it. Because most of the time when you talk about it, you think just painting, but then knowing that there are things like installation pieces, things like music, that are art forms that can actually inform the way people think about art and mental health, that in itself is a paradigm shift.
Thank you. You just brought back my own experience, because Valerie and I actually, sorry everyone, were in the same cohorts for the Arts in Medicine Fellowship. And yes, truly, then I was a medical student, but trust me, any opportunity to not be in school or not be in this environment, even though we were in a quite serious environment, but it felt like playing, and it's just lighthearted. I felt like a child again to just, even though I, end up like throwing rubbish or, but the fact that you do it with a group of people, nobody's trying to impress anybody, you're just trying to, create something, and then you magically create like very beautiful things, So yes, I totally agree with Valerie's point of view. We're going to go on to the Apostle of Joy now. And since we've been talking about, all of these art pieces and how it relates to mental health and, the feelings that it gives us, my question to you is this. Do you think that truly a bright and cheerful expressions, are they truly reflective of how we feel on the inside? Is it a true, picture of what's going on in the person's, head? Is it a true picture of your mental state?
No, not necessarily. It's quite interesting how people would see you life of the party, you're smiling, or you have the brightest colors in the room and they think you're the happiest person on earth. And quite frankly, it might just be the opposite. We've seen quite a number of people who have been suicidal, who have actually had the opportunity to work with, people who you would never have guessed they were going through dark times in their mind or in their life. So a cheerful disposition or expression of happiness is not necessarily a reflection of a person's mental state. In fact, let's even go to the most basic of it. Every human being has an instinct to survive. Right? Every human being, we're looking to survive. And so you wake up in the morning and you're looking for resources, opportunities to help you to stay the next day, to live through the day and to wake the next day. All right. So that's why people work. That's why people have social interactions, just to live the next day. Right. So when a person has a cheerful disposition, especially in this world that we live in, where we have the craze of social media and everybody has this drive or this craze to be perceived in a particular kind of way. And the craze is not because of just social media, Instagram, TikTok. No, it's a fight for survival. And when we understand that basic, it helps us to actually manage perception and help us to live a better life, not just a cheerful life, but a so have a cheerful decision where as she knows she's going to scroll through Instagram feed, see Ben, see Joe, anything. So what does she do? She has to look like something is going on for her. So she goes out there. I hope you can hear me. It shows my internet is unstable. All right. So she goes out there, she finds the best, take a few pictures. Maybe she gets a bottle of water if you're in area hotels, right? And she takes like 100 pictures, which she's going to post schedule in like 3 weeks. Why? Because she's trying to manage perception. Now, in those pictures, she looks happy, cheerful, bright, but in her heart, she's trying to struggle to be alive, to just stay alive, to rest, to look like nothing good is going on with her. You understand it? So basically, human instinct, survival, especially in the world where we have cancel culture. Everybody gets canceled if you're not at par with culture. Now, just physical death in today's age, we have social death. All right. So instinctively, people don't want to die socially. So because of cancel culture, you have people who have a cheerful disposition, but deep down in their hearts, they go.
I think we lost Bolu there. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Going through the hardest time of their lives, but only to say life looks at you and say,
You're not the only one though. I can't see him from my home too.
Okay. I was actually enjoying where Bolu was leading us.
2 weeks ago, you didn't.
Bolu, I think we lost you. But yes, Bolu was actually, I look forward to him coming back to, completing that. He was telling us about the cancel culture, and which honestly brings us to a much, deeper conversation about, your presence. So he talked about physical presence and then your social presence. And that's a whole other conversation if we have to talk about, how people perceive you on, social media and whatnot. But yes, wonderful one. Thank you, Bolu. I'm going to go on to Victoria now. We've all been talking about how, art expressions are helpful and whatnot, how they help, people in surroundings and everything like that. But we don't really talk about the artists themselves. I'm pretty sure that lots of artists go through mental stress. It is not an easy task to actually create something, regardless of how small or how big it is. It takes a lot of mental work. And, as much as you're thinking, okay, does this look great to me? You're also thinking, how are people going to react to this? Yes, artists go through their own mental stress and, depression, anxiety. How do you think that they can be supported as well?
That's an absolutely fantastic question, and I'm glad you asked that, because I think a lot of people perceive artists as, as what Bolu was saying, they're larger than life and everything's going for them, and life is fantastic. But what people don't see is that artists experience, that they've got this sensory experience, so they perceive things a lot deeper than a lot of people, and that's why they're able to create, wonderful things that we all appreciate. They're able to make meanings of things that people take for granted, and with that comes a heightened sensitivity, for their environment and just different things. And that can have an effect on the mind also as well. I think other things that may affect artists could be not being appreciated. So, they make a piece of art and maybe they're not being able to sell their pieces or whatever, and they're maybe struggling financially or just different things. And then they also have the added struggles that everybody else has, what Bolu was saying, or was alluding to before, that everyone's just trying to survive. Yeah, so you've got the daily things, like the bills and all that kind of stuff. And I think one way, I mean, there are two ways I would look at, supporting artists. There's one way that artists themselves can support themselves, and that's sort of taking a break sometimes and just kind of maybe removing themselves from the pressure. Maybe they've got deadlines and things like that. But another way I think that artists can be supported is for people to pay a good price for art that's created by these artists, because their skills, just the way a doctor trains to acquire their skills, and the way a lawyer would train to acquire their skills. These are skills that, although they're talented in their own right, but they're skills that they have to keep up. And so I think one of the ways that we can support artists is just appreciating their talent, buy their art, promote them if you can. And if you see somebody who's struggling, support them, help them, ask them how they are. Don't just assume that because they're larger than life, or because they are, they create these wonderful pieces, or maybe they're celebrities or mini celebrities or whatever, that they, that life is absolutely wonderful for them. See them as human beings, see them have that human connection with them. See them as, I'm a human, you're a human, and just having that connection. Just find out how they are, find out what they need, find out how, how they can be supported, share their work, and and just honor them, and honor that the skills that they have and the skill set that they bring, and the fact that they make the world beautiful. You know, when you walk into, say, a gallery or a space, a community, and you see, you know, an installation or a painting, that's come from somewhere. That's come from depth, because artists experience life and they express it in a way that is different to other people. And I think honoring that is a great support for artists. And I think that you know, just honoring that would help them to feel connected, help them to feel appreciated, help them to feel loved, and help them to feel like, yeah, I'm seen, I'm heard.
I agree with you. Thank you so much, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you know, I've picked up a few things from what you've just said. Essentially, you know, supporting each other, realizing that these people have produced something from within themselves and actually appreciating it in terms of being like properly for, it's just, you know, there's a whole like socioeconomic status is all over the place. So yes, of course, it's only certain people would be able to afford certain things. But at the same time, I feel like, you know, appreciating the people who are creatives around us is very, very important, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We lost you for a bit. You were telling us something very important. I want you to, you know, continue your conversation in lines with the, you know, how can we now, you've said a lot of things about, you know, your presence physically as a person and your social presence. How do you think that with all of this, you know, imbalance with, you know, us having like an outlook to people, how can we make use of things around us to actually feel genuine joy, you know? How can we use the resources that we have?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd need Bolu and you to, you know, just tell us a little more about how to harness these things and make the best use of our resources to actually create real joy and not the fake joy.
Yeah, I think that's a really relevant question for today, you know, the time that we live in, with a lot of, you know, there's so many distractions now with social media, all kinds of different things. But it's starting from where you are and working with what you've got. Sometimes people think that they need to have these, you know, elaborate, you know, a lot of money and, you know, elaborate spaces to sort of make or do something, but we actually don't need to. You know, whatever you've got, you can work with. And that would, and whatever you gravitate to. So for so many different people, it's different things. So some people maybe gravitate to nature. Nature makes them happy. If they see a leaf, you know, it just brings them joy. They can bring that into their home and, you know, maybe pick some more leaves up and dry it and find new ways to preserve the leaves and maybe put it up on a wall, or, you know, make something out of it, or learn to draw leaves or paint them or whatever. Some people gravitate towards rocks and stones and different things like that. They can bring that home and paint it, or, you know, and put it somewhere that, because we're visual people, put it somewhere that you see, that you can see it. And the fact that you've made it, even if it's not this amazingly wonderful, fantastic museum piece, but you've made it, you've put an element of you into that thing, that in itself would bring you joy. And I think also connecting with other people who are like-minded, who you know will encourage you, will speak the truth to you, but they do it out of love, and they will encourage you, and so you've got that mutual respect and sort of reciprocating each other's talent and exchanging from each other. That as well, I think, is a sort of thing that, you know, brings joy. So joy is not expensive. It's the way that we interpret things, and it's a mindset thing. You know, it's how we receive information and work with that information that we've received and using it to support ourselves in, you know, or lifting ourselves in a way that supports us. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be anything. It could be, you know, just even sitting down, watching children play. That can bring joy, you know, children's laughter and different things like that. And then you can internalize that and then use that to create whatever you want to create. You don't have to be making museum pieces, like I said. It's quite simple, but it takes paying attention to the things around us and then being intentional to create joy for ourselves and those around us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Victoria. The Apostle of Joy, do you, what are your inputs about that? We can't hear you, Bolu.
All right, thank you. So good. Thank you, Victoria, for sharing that. And when you talked about joy, something leaped in me. But I wanted to say that sunlight is one resource that we have to pay attention to, but it's very critical for our mental health. Sunlight, because aside the fact that, you know, the vitamins required for us to feel good actually come from sunlight. You know, the fact that everywhere is illuminated by the sunlight, it actually illuminates our mind, opens our mind up to see things differently. And I'm so glad that Victoria talked about joy being the way that you interpret things. And I want to say that it's like perception and perspective. I talked earlier about perception, meaning how you see things or how people see you, how you see people, how you see life, and how people see you. Perspective is the standpoint. Where are you standing to view life? And where joy plays a critical role is when you have the right perspective. Perception is easy. You see things in a way, you're able to laugh, and it brings brightness. Do you see it? And you're things from a deep, you know, not following the crane or the crane, the noise of the seeing things differently. Joy is the experience, as I saw that in the comment, exactly, precisely so. It's not costly at all. So sunlight is very critical. One of the things I tell my clients is to see sun. Most people who have depression want to stay in the dark. You stay in the dark, you have your light bulb on. They don't have UV light, they don't have all the rays of light. So it's very critical to walk in the evening, see the sun, evening sun. It's very critical for your mental wellness. Music, oh, the rhythm of music, the sound, all of those actually types, the way that comes from music, actually some level of rhythm to your life, wellness to your mental health. Many times, if you plug your ears, close your eyes, listen to good music, it just takes you away, you know, and it's able to help you to focus on what's critical, you know, find out, you know, there's a difference between the problem, a perceived problem, and the actual problem. Music helps you to bring clarity to life. Art, and I love art because I was writing a book some years ago, and I called two friends. I called a scientist and I called an artist. I asked the scientist, if you make a mistake in a scientific experiment, what do you do? The response was like, you'd have to start again. So I called my artist friend and said, okay, if you're doing a painting, you know, just imagining something and you're just putting it all out there, and you seemingly make a mistake, or there's a spill of paint on your canvas, what do? He says, I convert it into something. And I'm like, how don't we see life as an artist? We're trying to all the time start life all over again. Like scientists, you make a mistake and you're trying to start all over again. But if you see life like an artist, you're able to convert your mistakes into something beautiful, colorful for the world to appreciate. You see, so that experience made an impact in my life and helped me to value art more. So go out there, do a painting. You don't have to have it all figured out. That's the beauty of art. Able to create masterpieces, just being expressive. So those are resources. You don't have to spend so much to be able to express yourself with art. Expressive writing is something critical as well. When you're writing and you're pouring out your heart, the dark things you're dealing with, and you pour it out in expressive writing. It could be a poem, an article, a story, whatever it is. It actually relieves you. It helps you to feel better than you were feeling before. So expressive writing, people, community, connecting with people, either talk to therapy if you're dealing with sometimes something difficult in life, talk to a therapist or talk to trusted friends. Just connect with people, have social interaction, not on Instagram. That's a mimic of that's a pseudo experience. Having physical, human, social interaction actually is liberating, is therapeutic. Having a chat on Instagram might not be as therapeutic. Having a face-to-face conversation. So it's very critical that you have connections, actual real-life connections with human beings. Those are things that you have around you, that you have access to. You don't have to pay for, and it actually helps you to live the best lives.
Thank you so much, Bolu. Thank you. You've said music, art expressions, actual connection with people, sunlight. Oh, I actually think the sunlight one is like greater than. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Victoria. Victoria said a whole lot about how you can, just pick the little things in your environment and, just find joy, enjoy it. It doesn't have to be a big deal. That's the one thing. Joy is not expensive, basically. Okay, so let's go to Mr. Afolabi now. Mr. Afolabi has just done an exhibition on the military zone, Keep Off. So I'd like you to, just tell us about, the public reaction to this art. I've actually gone through like your exhibition. It's wonderful, well done. But I want you to tell us a little about, the colors, the themes, how you related most pictures to certain things. You were telling us earlier, we couldn't go further in it, but I want you to now tell us, about the different aspects and how the colors tie together. Thank you.
All right, so I'll try not to put myself in the box of the colors, because I'm just going to go through the jargon of my own artistic practice if you ask me to go that way. But what I will tell you is this. First of all, from the theme of the exhibition, which is what everybody is already familiar with, which is the military zone Keep Up. They see it every single day in their around in the neighborhood and all of that. So it was crucial for me for it to be familiar, for it to feel like this is something that you know very well about. So let's talk about it. Then I borrowed from the palette, which is the military palette. Now, this is divided into two things. One is the familiarity of the military palette and the knowing that this is a symbol of authority. Like you see the camouflage and it's a symbol of authority, it's a symbol of safety, it's a symbol of discipline. So there's a place of it's a personal thing and a communal thing. There's the unspoken acceptance that we have woven around the military palette. The sign of it, even if a fake person put it on, it's a given. And there's also the aspect of, as an artist, there's not a lot of artists that would have done that as I did for my exhibition, because a lot of artists would be literally scared, not without even doing their research, that what if military men come and carry me at my exhibition? Because I'm not a military personnel, so infusing things that are very representative of the military personnel can be very tricky. So I did my research, consulted with my lawyers before I could attempt it that way. And the whole point of going through all that way was to address the fact that in life and in everything that we do, especially for me as a creative growing up, oftentimes we are always cautioned away from the things that we genuinely want to do. And these things end up being the bedrock of the things that makes us desperate people or unsatisfied people or unfulfilled people in the different career that has been chosen for us, or the different pathway that we just feel like, well, since I can do it, I'm just doing it because simply this is what the society accepts. So military zone people now counter-referencing the idea that you see it in your neighborhood and nobody dares go around those fences or the barbed wires or any place they put those kind of noted down keywords to. But there are people that are very courageous, or what do we say, rebellious among us, that will go beyond the fence just to find out what lies beyond there. And they become the coolest kid because they are the one that will come back with the stories like, oh, I saw these people. If they survived it, of course. But nobody else. Okay.
Afolabi, I'm really sorry. How do you think most people who saw this exhibition, how did they react to it? What do you think was
Okay, so I'm coming to that. So the logic is this. Taken from the fact that people go and experience this thing and they have the courage to go beyond the wall, they are able to become like the coolest people, or like they survived it. They have more stories now to share with all the rest of the kids. Now, translating that into my exhibition, the whole point of the body of works there, it's literally was reminding people that to take courage, to be bold enough to go beyond the wall. And what I found particularly that was very satisfying for me, literally even up to yesterday, today, somebody made a whole slide that was from my exhibition. That's about 2 months ago. She most likely was there just for the opening. And she made a whole slide about it and just referenced it about our own perspective about what she's thinking about the entire place. Because I found that it stayed with people because they found themselves in some of these spaces, particularly the invitation to the self-room. These are the paintings that had the fluid flow of painting that covers your eyes halfway or go around your body. They look like smoke or cloud, depending on the context, or even water, depending on the way I paint it. And the logic there is for it to be a symbolic a symbolic thing to reference how we have this undue pressure that beyond our control. But at the end of the day, everything still lies in our hands. Like we are the own person that needs to take ourselves out of the narrow mold that society often puts us. At the end of the day, the exhibition was heavily moving around, letting people go beyond the wall of everything they say they should not explore. Because majority of the things that ends up affecting a lot of us, our confidence, getting people unsure, is this fear that has been woven into us, is this abuse of authority that have made us keep up. Like we even have things that we want to explore, just find out what's beyond there. Like I'm curious about this thing. To go beyond their curiosity, it's breaking away from not letting, just staying behind and keeping up, and just going beyond the wall and finding out what lies beyond their curiosity.
Thank you so much, Afolabi. Now you're challenging me to take on things that I know might be dangerous. Please don't listen to what Afolabi says. Anyway, yes, I appreciate that actually, going past your own limits, your self-conceived limits, so to say. Victoria, one last question for you. I don't know if you've seen, Afolabi's work, but generally as an art psychotherapist, do you think that the colors around us, and I mean like the actual colors, like does brighter colors actually affect your mood? Do duller colors actually mean that do the colors around us affect our lives?
Thanks for that question. I would love to see Afolabi's work, so I'd look out for that. It sounds amazing. Yeah, it sounds really amazing and brave.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Yeah, colors do have an impact on our moods. There's actually a thing called chromotherapy. I think I've said it correctly, and it's basically color therapy. And what they've done is that they've done a study into colors, and they operate from the premise that colors are so we perceive colors from our sight, and it goes into our bodies from our eyes and our skin, and it goes into our bodies, and then it affects us. And they come from the angle that colors are actually spiritual, and that each color holds its own vibrational frequency and wave. And so when we perceive those colors, they have an impact on how we react to them, and what we do in our moods. And I think that's really interesting because, say, for example, you walk into a room just imagine that you walk into a room that's painted bright red. So everything's red, the walls, the ceiling, whatever, I know it's a bit extreme, but just try and imagine that the furniture and everything's red. Your mood would automatically be impacted because red is a very, it's a color that you have to pay attention to. It's obvious. It's right there. It's in your face. And red is very energizing. It's very, it's kind of larger than life sort of thing. And in many different cultures, red means different, has different symbolic meanings, because colors are symbolic. So say, for example, the Mayan culture, which is like sort of Mexico, Peru, these sort of places, they associate the color of red with death, for example, right? So death, blood, sacrifice, that's those sort of things. So red, for somebody from that culture, would automatically have that psychological connection to, to that death and that sort of goriness, compared to somebody who's, say, from China, where red is seen as a celebration color. It's like energy, beginning of life, that sort of thing. The way they will perceive red would be different to the way somebody from, say, Mexico would perceive red. And we know as well that certain colors affect our mood. So say, for example, you walk into a room where it's like maybe light green or something, there's a calmness that you feel because green is kind of, synonymous with nature, yeah, trees, fresh air, that sort of thing. There's a reason why they say, there's a reason why they say, oh, she gave me the blues, you listen to blues music because it kind of, feeds into your mood and that sort of thing. So yes, colors are incredibly important. They have, according to studies, colors hold vibrational energy, and they have within them their own signature, their own language, their own currency, So yes, I think colors have an impact on, just even if you pick up white to wear, you're going to feel a certain way as opposed to if you wear black.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we know that black, for example, I live in England, right? In England, we wear black a lot because it's very cold. Black draws energy from the sun and creates heat, helps you to stay, it's different. So it does, it has an impact on you. And if you want to feel special and happy or whatever, you wear, bright clothes, bright colors with sunshine. And we know that yellow makes us kind of feel a bit happy. And somebody was mentioning before, I think it was Bolu, who was saying, you know, sunshine, being in the sunshine can bring you joy, and you know it. So it's, you know, we associate sun, yellow with life, with light, with energy. So yeah, I think, yeah, well, not think, I know that colors do affect our mood, and they affect the way we conduct ourselves, and the way that we navigate space, and the way that we, you know, appreciate space and different things like that. It's colors are tangible. They have their own, like I said before, they have their own language, they have their own energy, they have their own, you can almost smell a color, you know, just from looking at a color, you can almost just go yellow, you know. Oh,
Bright and happy.
sorry?
Bright and happy.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so you can almost, you know, black, oh, black, oh, you know, I feel depressed, and white, oh, you know, you can almost feel and sense and even taste the color, and yeah, so it does have an impact on how we feel and how we express ourselves. It's so it's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria. It's been really, you know, wonderful learning from you, you know, relating arts to mental health, colors, nature. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
We're going to play a video from Nana Asumah now.
Okay.
Nana is a curator. She's an art psychotherapist as well. She was supposed to be in this conversation, but couldn't be here, so she's made a video for us. So yes, after we listen to Nana, we might take one or two more questions from Bolu and Valerie. And please, if you have questions, please put it in the chat box. We'll be taking questions.
The very first mental health art exhibition that we had at the Pantheon Gallery was Art for Brain Health. And it was in collaboration with you, and it was a fantastic experience that we will love to go over and over again. Bates mental health works was really an eye-opener for me, and it gave me a different perspective about art and medicine. Now, the peak and the height of the exhibition for me was seeing the glow on this elderly people's faces, and it was like taking them back in time to see and experience the youthful age in their old age. I mean, when they saw their own paintings exhibited, it was a total different experience, as against what is generally believed, that once people get to a certain age, you no longer fit in perfectly into the society. You are now relegated to a corner. You don't go out. When your kids have visitors, you are to stay in a room. But this mental health exhibition really gave a different perspective that, hey, we don't have to be confined to that old age cliche circle where we are more like extinct from the society, but we can still contribute. We can paint like kids will paint. We can go out, we can shop, we can do everything like every young person, even in old age. And for me, I try to relate it to even the younger generation, despite the fact that that particular exhibition was dealing with the old people. A lot of young people also have the same challenge where people feel, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. People don't think it's good enough to be shown or to be seen or to do certain things. So I think I would love to do it over and over again, having mental health exhibitions and actually having it deal with the younger generation more, because the mental health issue is a big deal, but we are not addressing it. Okay, how do we determine works to be considered for an art exhibition, especially when it has to do with mental health for the public consumption? This is where curating is amazing for me, and it's a total different experience from what is seen generally around. Whenever we're considering works for an exhibition, now let me say this, whether for art, for mental health, or for a regular art exhibition, they are basically the same because they're infused. And I'll tell you this. Let's take, for example, the current economic situation in Nigeria. And then you're curating an exhibition and you're selecting works that are in the very dark tones, they're quite moody. They have subjects or objects or figures that depicts sadness, lack of money. You have images of a hunger-stricken kid, probably like begging for money or telling the parent or the father or the mother that I'm hungry, and the father, has an expression like, I don't have anything to give to you. But you, as an artist has recreated his or her world in a painting. As a gallery, when you have to consider mental health, you now have to guide the artist and say that, hey, I quite understand that this is a situation in the country, and you're trying to mirror and present it to people and say, hey, government, this is what you're not seeing on a day-to-day basis. This is what we are experiencing. And we're trying to tell you as a government that this is what is going on. Can we address these issues? Public issues to be addressed. Agreed. But at the same time, you don't want someone who will buy a painting and goes to his house and it's all moody and gloomy. And you're wondering as a collector, why did I buy this? It makes me sad. How do I see a child who has not eaten in days, having a kwashiorkor look? The parents can't afford to feed their own kids. How do I buy such a painting? But rather, you're putting a child who's hungry and going, oh, looking like this. And then there's another figure of the mother who's actually holding a plate of food and approaching the child. And then you see another image of the child, like having two creations of the child in one work, blooming, laughing, smiling, all happy, like, hey, at last, mommy's got me food. That is a message of hope. And if you look at a lot of people who are going through mental health, you will totally agree with me that most of it starts from an economic standpoint. Most of the time. If you trace it, from my experience with actually dealing with a couple of people in the area, around my community where I live, even dealing with staff, you can tell that a lot of people react the way they react, like they're mentally unstable, simply because of what they are going through at the moment or at a certain stage of their life. So it is actually very, very imperative and very paramount for any curator or any gallery to give hope to the collectors or to the public by guiding the artists and the way they present whatever is going on in the society around them that they want to present and make people aware of, but also toning it down and saying at the end of the tunnel, there's always light. So for me, this is the way I say it. I want people to come to my gallery, buy works from a mental health exhibition, take it home and have a look at it, because I tell people that when you go for art exhibitions opening, please endeavor to go back after the show has officially opened, so that you can have an experience with these works. You can communicate. You're meant to be able to communicate with your works. If there is no communication between you and your art, then there's something missing. There's a missing link that you must find. You must be able to have an interaction with your work. Your piece must be able to speak with you. I have had people who say to me that whenever they have a brain block, all they need to do is to go sit in front of their artworks and they get an inspiration. It's all tied to mental health. Because if there's nothing mentally connecting you as a person, as a collector, as an artist, as a member of the public with the arts, then there's something wrong. It's all, everything that we do all happens in the brain. So we must be at that good standpoint where we can mentally approach things positively and in a stable manner. How do we galleries support mental health works, mental health exhibitions, or mental health artists? Say, it boils down to economic standpoint. When an artist has produced a body of works, whether for mental health or otherwise, the only thing that gives an artist joy is when there is serious art appreciation of an artist's works, which translates into purchasing such works. An artist does not feel happy when an artist has a show, whether mental health or otherwise, and at the end of the show, nothing is acquired, nothing is bought. The way I feel the galleries can help is furthermore educate the collectors or the collecting community about acquiring works, about being more open to people who are dealing with mental health. And as for me as a gallery, I would love to support and have collaborations with mental health, because I always say to people that art is very therapeutic. Art is healing. Art consoles. That's the only way, that's the only reason why we buy work. Somebody will say, oh, if it has flowers. Someone once said to me, Nana, I love Pejo Alatishe's works, but can you get me those ones with butterflies? They make me happy. It makes me feel I'm blooming. There's something good happening, or there's something lovely, beautiful coming around me when I see those butterflies. So, and indirectly or directly, it also makes the artist happy that, oh, so mentally, somebody appreciates the fact that I put a butterfly in my work, and not criticizing that, oh, butterfly doesn't make your work look serious enough. So we just have to, it's a synergy. We all have to work together. The galleries need to encourage mental health works, more mental health works, encourage mental health artists, whether young kids, whether adults, whether old people, encourage by showing more of these mental health works. At the same time, by doing that, you're encouraging the collecting populace to actually see something beautiful in acquiring those works. And in turn, you're making the artist happy.
Oh, wow. We've just heard from Nana Asumah. Nana Asumah is actually the owner of the art gallery, Art Pantheon in Lagos, and she's an art curator, as you can tell. That's a lot of, very enlightening talk that she's told us. Basically, things I picked up from that, short clip of ours is to appreciate good arts, which honestly we've heard a lot of people talk about today, appreciate the artists themselves. And also on the part of the artist, you mentioned, painting or producing art that gives hope. I feel like in this day and time, most of us, everybody's trying to hold on to something, just something to get you through to the next day. So yes, painting bright images, producing hopeful images, and also um, encouraging people to actually, interact with the art. So it's beyond the art exhibition itself. It's, going back to the gallery, having maybe a one-on-one time, just looking at the art and, trying to find, okay, what does this mean to me? Is this something I like? Is this not something I like? And honestly, I feel like it's also fine if you can't really relate to the art and it's not really for you, So yes, that brings me to Valerie. What, apart from all these things that we've heard from Nana Asumah, what do you think as an artist yourself, what do you think that most art galleries should, think about, or what should they consider when they're trying to pick works for mental health? Because she's spoken on the bright side of things. She's talked about, how some people prefer like butterflies and stuff. I'm sure some other people might find joy in things that appear a little bit more gothic, darker things. So what do you think a gallery should focus on, or what do you think they should focus on when, considering works for mental health? Valerie, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes, okay. So I think Auntie Nana has said basically everything. She has covered everything in terms of selecting pieces for, let's say, an art exhibition, especially when it has to deal with mental health. You have to remember that what you're trying to promote is more of hope than, dwelling on, the problem, because everybody, if everybody begins to tell their story, all of us become sad and gloomy. But then when you're able to, just like everything else, like when there is a problem, when you're able to find a solution to that problem, you might not even have a solution to that problem, but a way of making that burden seem lighter, because definitely there are people that can always relate to whatever it is that you have created. So just like this goes that every art piece has its audience. So even the Gothic pieces have their audience as well. So it depends on what the curator is trying to achieve with that particular exhibition. There's something that I say. So when you're having an exhibition, right, it's a coming together of both the artists and the curators. So it's not just, oh, we're focusing on what the artist wants to talk about, or oh, the curator is going to focus on only what they are trying to achieve, but then it's curator having something they're trying to, a message they're trying to pass across, and then finding the right artist to help pass that message across. So it depends on what it is you're trying to do. If you're going towards the Gothic side, there are artists that create Gothic works, and there are also collectors who are interested in Gothic pieces as well. So the best thing to do is to know your audience, like Auntie Nana said, and then also understand the message that you're trying to pass across. Because once you have that, then you can almost guarantee that you would have a successful exhibition.
There's audience for every kind of arts, which is honestly very sensible and very valuable, Maybe if you're speaking to the older generation, you might want to do like softer things. If you're speaking to the younger generation, like children, you might want to do things that are more colorful with more primary colors and all of that. But yes, that brings us, we are actually, way past time, but just one last question for Bolu. We've all been talking about, how art relates to mental health, joy, and all of these things. Very, very quickly and very briefly, Bolu, tell us what mental health is not. We all feel like, I feel like we all know what mental health is, but what is mental health not?
All right, a very exciting question. I love the question. So let me just go spot on. Mental health is not money. Mental health is not social media. WHO defines mental health. I'm just going to give you the definition of mental health according to the WHO. It says that it's a state of mental well-being that enables people to be able to cope with stress, realize their potentials, their ability, learn, work well, and contribute to the community. So if anything is not helping you to do any of this, cope with stress, then it's not mental health, really. It might be a platform expression when it comes to social media. If money is creating more stress for you than it is bringing peace, then that's not social media. That's not mental health, really. Although you can have money and have good mental health, right? Like I said earlier, it's about perspective, and how to manage those things, right? So what's not social media, what's not mental health, social media, money, human connections that are not helping you to be a better version of yourselves, that is not mental health. That you should stay away from.
Thank you so much, Bolu. We're past time now. I want us to look at the question. We have a few questions. Aziza said, good evening, everyone. My question is, what is the impact of arts in health in respect to autistic individuals? And I would love an experience, if any, from the speaker from work with such, okay, if maybe anybody in any of the speakers have experience with such. I feel like Victoria Ashadu would have been really great to answer that because she's an art psychotherapist. But I'm going to give you my 2 cents on, that. I'm currently a clinical research physician, and I see patients with OCD on a daily basis. And I feel like with like autism and disabled people, people intellectually challenged people, some of these medias or, like visual arts, paintings, music, or I feel like that's an avenue to figure out, okay, what is this person proficient at? A lot of times there's lots of discrimination or stigmatization against people who are somewhat challenging anyway. But I feel like through this medium, we've seen like lots of great artists who are autistic, who have, different syndromes and whatnot. So I just think it's another expression of a person's, intelligence, so to say. I don't know if any of the speakers would like to add to that.
I can lend my voice to that as well. So in my years as an occupational therapist, because I practiced for a few years as an occupational therapist, I've had to deal with autistic children. And I think that they're geniuses, right? They have challenges with social interaction, but they're able to be creative. Now, to express their creativity might be difficult until you understand what they're trying to communicate. But when you give them art, you give them a platform for expression. And whatever form of art I'm talking about, it could be music. It could be music. Now, they might react to certain frequencies of sound. But when they're comfortable with music, a particular music, or they are creating it, you realize the genius behind it. That they have difficulty in interacting with people or with the environment. All right, the environment can be noisy. What you think is a bit quiet can be noisy to them. But the way that they respond to it, if you pay attention, you see the genius behind, what's going on in their mind. All right, so what we need to do is to actually create that breathing platform, and art does that perfectly well. Give them a paintbrush and see what they do with it. And try to find out what are they thinking by what they're doing or what they're creating of art. It's a gradual process, trying to form that interaction with someone who is autistic. But when you eventually you'll realize that, man, this guy's out.
Thank you so much, Bolu. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if we've lost Bolu again, but yes, thank you for that, Bolu. That was very, informing. We have a question for Afolabi, actually. Catherine says, you mentioned being overwhelmed when working in mental health, but you found a way through. I think that you focused on your own painting more than being with the people who were sick. Or maybe I did not hear you right. Can you share more about that? Afolabi, do you mind clarifying what Catherine has just asked?
All right. So first of all, is that I was not overwhelmed as a person. I was overwhelmed by the amount of people that thought that, oh, I can speak to Mr. Wajuud based on my suicidal thoughts. And when you have like 3 people hanging on their life in your DMs, you begin to like, this is not it. And for somebody it was crucial for me to have a platform like that because I had people around me who had suicidal thoughts and who had suffered a lot of phases of either anxiety or depression throughout their life, or that I've even lost at the point in my life. So it was very crucial for me to create that avenue to be able to discuss this thing. The whole idea was supposed to be for a support group and a safe space for us to be able to share. Now, being overwhelmed because I became like the most accessible person for a lot of these people because when it comes to therapy, what's the name? Support groups, there's not enough information. It's either gendered,
Give me 1
is
minute.
either
Sorry,
okay.
but would everybody mind please turning on their camera so that we can just take a group picture for this session while Bolu is speaking? Thank you.
All right, so you just have like communities that are either very directed at you must have a serious problem for us to attend to you, or you're having communities that are just simply focused on specific aspect of the teaching. So I became like the most accessible guy. Then I realized that with the influx I was getting in terms of the amount of message I was getting, I decided to just ensure I direct that energy into my heart in a way that people do not see me as an authority who can attend to their mental illness and give them a professional advice. And I decided to just use my art and create platforms that I can control through comment section, through exchange of ideas and art publicly and not in my private spaces, because private spaces means that you can send me a DM about something you're going through. It's no problem you sending me, but it becomes a burden upon me when I don't have the professional tools to handle that. And the Mr. Wajuud of 2019 definitely did it, and it was very crucial for me to redirect my energy by focusing the conversation by using my arts to talk about these topics.
Thank you so much, Afolabi. Thank you. That's very, that's very kind of you actually, to want to help people through the things that you create. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, now we are being too serious on this group. Can we actually turn on our cameras and